Now I invite our today's chief guest, Shri Kuldeep Koda, IPS retired, to give us the final insight into the matter for this watchful insight because of his experience in Jammu and Kashmir state for over 35 years.
Thank you. I'm thankful to Brigadier Dr. Vijay Sagar Deeman for asking me to come here and interact with you. General G.S. Jamwal, Mr. K.V. Jindial, Advocate Sumit Khujuria, Dr. Shalini Rana, our prominent guest in the audience, General R.P. Singh, other distinguished members here, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. There's not much to say. We had a very fruitful discussion on the history of Article 370, its implications, how it was brought in, what are the future implications of its abrogation, and lots of debate has gone into during interaction on why certain things happened in a particular way. The first student, of course, wanted very aptly to know during the query as to what lies in future for us after this development, and there's not much point in discussing what happened in the past. But you know, those who don't learn from the history are bound to commit those mistakes. Again, it's very necessary to know what happened in the past, why it happened, so that we don't allow that mistake to repeat. And we, as guardians of our country, every citizen of India is a guardian of its integrity and sovereignty. We don't allow the things to fall in wrong hands, and if somebody tries to subvert it, we stand up and speak and do whatever we are expected to do. So I will not go into those details which have been already discussed, but certain things why it was very necessary to abrogate it. Mr. Jandial has already mentioned about the psychological reasons, the barrier it was creating both mentally and otherwise, the hesitance of others from accepting us fully as part of India, and we also feeling that we are not as good part of India as any other state. Those barriers are gone, those chains are destroyed. We are no longer feeling chained with something which makes us feel in a category lower than the category in which other citizens of India are placed. So the fields are wide open for us, and the verdict of the Supreme Court, which very well and very aptly dealt with the matter. One sentence in, I was hearing the debate, I was hearing the judgment right from the first word to the last word. And the wit lies in its brevity. In converting the Constituent Assembly into Legislative Assembly in the definitions, and then conceding that power of the Legislative Assembly in the parliament, and then the parliament legislating, and then the bill being passed. The Chief Justice mentioned, and that was done all because it was mentioned in our constitution that the consent of the state constituent assembly is required. It can be done only, its abrogation can be done only on the recommendation of the constituent assembly of the J&K state. And the argument of those who wanted this article to stay was that the constituent assembly is not there, so it has acquired a state of permanency. So because the recommendation cannot come, it's not possible. So once the recommendation is not there, so you cannot change it. The Chief Justice of India in one sentence floored that argument. He mentioned when the Constituent Assembly was dissolved, the power of recommendation automatically ceased to exist. Does it make sense? When the Constituent Assembly is not existing, the power to recommend also ceased to exist, so that's gone. So, as Jigal Sahab mentioned, that only the President, of course, President acts on the advice of the Parliament on what Parliament does, so its powers were entirely with the President. So, that's how you, as young boys and girls, have to be thinkers to find a way out of difficult situations in the interest of the nation. There's another one point which I would like to bring here. It's one of the judges, although it was all 5 judges concurred as far as it's not, technically, Article 370 is abrogated, but theoretically it is still there. The content is gone. The way the State Constituent Assembly is still there, but the content is finished. So, one of the judges in that gave a separate judgment. In fact, 2 judges gave separate judgment, and one of the judges recommended that Truth and Reconciliation Commission should be set to look into the human rights violations both by the state and non-state actors since 1980 onwards. And in many forums, this was held by the displaced community especially, and many others also, that here is an opportunity where the exodus of the Hindu community from Kashmir Valley can be brought up and deliberated upon, and instead of terming it as a migration, it can be termed as exodus or forced exodus or genocide or whatever, or different terminologies being used. But when you read this part and when you focus on it, it says both by the state and non-state actors. I did feel comfortable with it. So, after the 2 days after the retirement of that particular judge, I spoke to him because I told him that it was probably, I didn't want to even being there on the bench. I didn't want to, but now that you are out of it, he said yes, it is in the interest of community and so and so and all those things. Truth will come out. It was not migration. Some people are advocating to Jammu, and that will also come out. He will be on the court. But I said, why did you say state? Non-state is understood. So of course, he said that will also come on record that there was nothing like that. But the fact of the matter is that when any such thing comes on for debate before a commission, it will always be those who have been creators and perpetrators of the terrorism in Kashmir, who are going to come in full swing and start all the way cases like Poshpura, alleged rape and murder, and all those things which have been brought up in Geneva, in United Nations, through various propaganda machines. And people like George Soros and others will also jump in and try to flood such sort of commission with complaints, with fabricated evidence against the state actors and the violations by non-state actors, as we have seen in the past. That's what my experience is. Against non-state actors, there is mostly evidence is lacking. It is not doesn't come forth. It gets decimated. It gets lost in the noise created about the human rights violations by state actors, which is going to put us back. And lo and behold, few days back, Amnesty International, whose stand on Kashmir and India is known, Amnesty International came up welcoming this part of the judgment that this Truth and Reconciliation Commission should be set up to look into these atrocities by both state and non-state actors. So I wanted to flag it because we have to be very careful about it, that this sort of commission will not be in our interest at all, because we don't want to make our own security forces to stand up again before these commissions with frivolous and baseless complaints. And if at all any Truth and Reconciliation Commission is to be set up, it has to be set up for looking into specific issues like the exodus of the community or human rights violations by non-state actors and the actors financed and sent in from Pakistan and the other forces inimical to the interest of India. And one point why 370 gained so much of prominence is again the stubborn attitude of the state administration, state government, right from 1957 onwards, especially after the Constituent Assembly, Jammu and Kashmir got its own constitution, and that is that the stubborn attitude taken by the state on looking into the problems of people like the Safai Karmcharis and West Pakistan refugees and others about whom a very firm stand was taken by the state that they cannot be assimilated and rehabilitated here. And in fact, you mentioned about the All India Service officers coming here. In 1980s, one Rajdhani society was set up where it was society was registered, in which the All India Service officers coming from outside set up a society, and it was land was brought, and it was decided that the land will be taken on lease by the society, and on lease some construction will be done, so that these officers who serve here for more than 30 years, 35 years, in fact, more than that also, and become unknown in their own states, should find a place to stay here on leasehold basis, not as owners of the property. That move was termed in the state assembly as East India Company. That this East India Company here is now trying to rule us by setting up a colony here. So that was the type of attitude, and good that the abrogation has been done. and people's belief in the idea of India has been restored, that the government of India is powerful to stand up to all these injustices which are perpetuated by interested elements. Another thing is that the dilutions have been a constant process. It has been an ongoing process, and 370 abrogation was the last nail, of course. And there have been more than about a dozen dilutions in Article 370 since it was incorporated. And if you look at it, these dilutions have been mostly to perpetuate the interests of the parties ruling at the center of the state at that point of time. But ironically, these dilutions have been put forward at that point of time in the interest of the state, and at the same time, again, you see the contradiction. The same parties have been projecting themselves as guardians of protecting the interests of people and not allowing any abrogation of 370. That if 370 is abrogated, then calamity will fall on the state of the people of the Jammu and Kashmir. And this stand has been very ironical. In fact, after this abrogation also, one of the mainstream parties at the national level said, if we come back to power, we'll get it restored. Now, after they saw the mood of the nation, they developed cold feet, and still after this 370 has been abrogated, the local mainstream parties in Kashmir say that we will not give up our effort, and we'll try to see how it can be brought back. Now, that's the type of contradiction, whether it was 1975 Accord or of Rajiv Gandhi and Farooq, or it was 1986 Accord. These sorts of accords, which led to the compromise of 370 in one form or the other, but ironically, these facilitated the perpetuation of the power of these parties at that point of time. So Article 370 was used in different manners by different parties as suited them, least bothering for the interest of the people of the state, but it was always used as a forum, as a sort of security or attack on the honor and respectability of the state, and given all sorts of names to make it a sentimental issue. So that much for Article 370. Good that it has gone, and we are in for good days, and we are no longer under two separate flags, two separate constitutions, and nothing like only foreign defense and communications, but the entire thing is now unified, and we should compliment those who made effort for it and those who succeeded in getting it for us. We are part of a happy, unified India now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable words.
Please like and subscribe.